Hello and welcome back to my mad little corner of the internet. This is going to be another Assorted Updates video, because it's been a while since I did the last one. In fact, it's been a while since I've recorded anything. And I've built a couple of new models since then, which are basically just repaints, so I'm not going to be making a video on them, or custom models, which I want to keep to myself. So without further ado, let us begin. And one of the carriages are running away. No, stay. Start with the three Thomases. Thomas number one. This is what I showed you in the last episode, which is my interpretation of the Stuart Reed Path model, which is very boxy. It's made out of wood, and it has a Hornby Duplo 2-rail chassis under it, with a motor bodged in for good measure. It runs very, very quickly, and it is quite hilarious. It also has a spring on the front because I didn't have a screw short enough. But it works, and it looks the part, and I'm quite happy with it. This is one of the ones that I'm not going to be making a video showcase on for how I built it, but I mean, you can just look at it and see just about how it's built. It's just bits of wood cut and stuck together. It's not difficult. And I don't have any pictures of making it, so I couldn't make one now if I wanted to. And overall, I'm quite happy with it. As I say, it does run a little bit fast for my liking, but hey, I can't complain. And it was fun to build. There's not much else to say about it. So that's Thomas number one. Second Thomas, or Spare Thomas, or Thomas Mark II, whatever you want to call it, is a Triang Ginty. It's just a repainted Ginty, that's it. This is another one I won't be making a video on because it's so easy to make. It's got a good weight to it, understandably. It's quite smart. If you want to get started on making models, this is definitely a good one to start with. It is very easy. And overall, I'm incredibly happy with how it turned out, and it's the only one that I'm keeping the tension lock couplers on, because then I can use it with everything else. And there really isn't much to say about it. It's just a Ginty that's repainted. Hang on. To anyone who hasn't seen a Triang Ginty before, this is what they look like. Plain black, British Railways. This one's missing its buffers. But it is just a plain repaint. I actually got a job lot of two of these. One of them is here, the other one was warped and cracked in 3 pieces, and that I cut up for the side tanks and smoke box. And I'll show you where those got used. The side tanks got used on my E2 model, so it's finally got the proper side tanks. It does still have its red connecting rods, if the camera will focus. Come on. Oh, there we go. It does still have the red connecting rods, but that's because I couldn't be bothered scraping it out because they're recessed, and it looks like the Railway Series ones, and I like it. Nothing else really has changed since then. It's just got the extended side tanks and a bit of filler in it. And obviously a slight repaint. Other than that, it's exactly the same as the way I built it in the video. Unfocus again. There we go. Moving on. Edward has had... Oh dear. Oops. Hang on. Edward has had a couple of minor updates, so the buffers have been polished, I've resilvered the handrail on the front, cleaned it up basically the same as when I last showed you. It's just Edward. It's nothing special. Henry has had a few small updates, so I've shortened the connector for the tender. I've changed the screw on it so it doesn't fall off as easily. I have given it, well, I had given it a clean, but apparently dust has said no. Excuse me. Yeah, just a clean, a repolish, nothing new. Still the same heavy white metal casting he always was. The tender, I've added a couple of lead weights too, just on the inside. Don't know if you can see. Yes, there it is. Hang on. Yeah, you can just about see there's a couple of bits of lead in there. Just to give it a bit of weight so it doesn't fall off as easily. Now, Gordon, I have done updates to, and to those of you who've seen part 2 of the build video, you will know. I've shortened the firebox, I've built a new cab, and I've finally added the bleeding handrails and a motor. And I'm very happy with the way it's turned out. It actually looks like an A1, rather than whatever the heck it used to be. And it runs incredibly smoothly. I couldn't be more happy with the way it turned out. I still haven't painted the numbers on any of them, except for Thomas and a bit of lettering, but I'll get there eventually, and there will be a whole video about that and how I did it in the future. Moving on to James. James is one that is really awkward to take photos and videos of because the wheels are black and they're not hollow spokes, so it just looks like they're disc wheels in the wrong light. But James has added a new funnel screw, so it looks somewhat convincing. It's still a bit too tall. He's had his safety valves polished, silvered the handrails. I still need to paint the bottom of the pony truck, but it runs well enough. Yeah, there's really not much to say about it. It is just, for those who don't know, it's a Triang DD3F with an extended footplate. It looks quite smart, I think. The tender technically has the wrong chassis and it's warped, which is very annoying. That's also why it looks a little bit too long for the tender. And I also had to build new steps on this side, but it looks alright. If I can get a new base for it so it doesn't have this gap in the edge, then I definitely will, but he really hasn't changed much either. Elsie has changed a bit since the last updates video. I've repainted the axle boxes and I've actually added the doors, which I forgot the first time round. I don't know how, but that happened. I've also repainted it in a better shade of brown to match Toby. And that's about it. I've resilvered the buffers, repainted the buffer beams, and painted the top air vent black. Aside from that, it's unchanged from the first time round. Toby hasn't changed at all since the last time, but to those of you who haven't seen the first video, I'll show you again. The body slides off, we've got the cow catchers and side plates, and you can access everything in the body, and it's just that one screw to take it apart. Absolutely ingenious little system, and a very smart model indeed. But exactly the same as the build video. Nothing has changed. Percy has had a few changes, but not this one. Percy, I've glued the handrails in place. I need to repaint that handrail there. I've added silver to the funnel, and I've resilvered the conrods. And that's about it. Now you'll recall earlier I mentioned that I cut up a ginty to use its side tanks and its smoke box. Where did the smoke box go, you ask? Here. That's where the smoke box went. My model of Percy Mark I. Now the original was made from a Larco brass Dockland shunter kit, but those are no longer in production and they were very unpopular when they were made, so they're quite rare now. So, I started looking through my ridiculously large collection of models to see what I could build one out of. And I noticed the smoke box I could get from a ginty. The saddle tank I could get from a Caledonian pug, the remains of which is here. And the cab I could just build with patterns, which I think I still have somewhere. Give me a moment. Much rummaging later. It is. These are the cab and bunker sides to the Mark I Percy. You are free to use these if you want. I'm sorry I didn't write out the measurements for the bunker, but there's measurements for the cab side. You can probably work out what they are. If you want high quality images of them, do feel free to drop me an email. I won't bite, I promise. Oop, there goes my tripod. Yeah, you're free to use them. I'm quite happy. The chassis is the same 040 Triang shunter that Mark II Percy uses, the Triang Nelly. The cylinders I've built myself, and the valve gear and piston rods are from a Great Western King. The dome is also off a ginty, and yeah, it's just mounted on a styrene chassis and painted. I do still need to finish it, and it's a long way from it, but it's getting there. If you're wondering what I made the cylinders out of, hit the focus. Come on, there we go. It's a cut-up Lego 1x1 brick, a Lego 1x1 round brick with the stud cut off, and a paperclip melted into it. It is that simple, and it looks pretty good in my opinion, and it works quite well. Donald hasn't had many changes. I've silvered the handrails again and just given it a clean. And I've also finally added the funnel top, which is glued onto the body screw, so I can still take it off if I need to. And yeah, he really hasn't changed, not since I built him anyway. Just same old. The cab and firebox, obviously I built out of copper and soldered together, and I have patterns for that, which are here. So if anybody wants to use these to build a model of Donald, please feel free. Again, if you want a high quality one, do drop me an email. I will gladly take a picture of them, digitise them and send them off to you. The firebox is something that you'll have to make yourself without pattern, along with the cab roof and cab front, because dependent on how you cut the copper out, they might be slightly different in measurements. So you're on your own for that. Now for the only other bits of rolling stock I have, Annie and Clarabelle, who I have done absolutely nothing to since the video. I haven't even painted the bogies. I haven't built the roofs. I need to change the angle of them. Just really haven't been bothered to do anything to them. Yes, I know I'm lazy, but yeah, life happened. Yeah, that's about it. That is the entire Reverend Replica collection that I own. If you want any help building them yourself, or if you just want a few ideas, if you want patterns, do drop me an email, it's in my About tab. I'm quite happy to give any advice I possibly can. And that's all for this episode. I hope you enjoyed. Have a great day, and I'll see you in the next video.